Hey guys, good to be with you this day. We're continuing from where we left off yesterday, the whole whatever thing that Paul told him to do. Whatever you do, do it as unto the Lord. And he continues now to maybe be a little bit more specific about what that looks like. He's talking specifically now to wives. Submit to your husband as is fitting to the Lord. Husbands, love your wives. And wives, do not be harsh with them. Children, obey your parents in everything, for 'tis pleases the Lord. Fathers, do not embitter your children. Slaves, obey your earthly masters in everything. Some great practical advice to a whole bunch of individual people. Now, we don't want to sit and take each one of those apart, although that would be a good thing maybe at some stage to do. But the verse is repeated again as to what he says there. Verse 23, he says once again, he's trying to tell us something. And again, he uses the clause, whatever. Verse 23, whatever you do, work at it with all your heart as working for the Lord and not for men. Now, there it is again. This whatever you do thing, do it as unto the Lord. Work hard as unto the Lord. Now, to those of you who feel really miserable about your workplace, I got to tell you, you have the opportunity to change the atmosphere in that place. You change your attitude in a workplace that is not always nice, and I've seen some horrible workplaces, but I just think that if you could change your attitude towards your work, you may make a big difference there. If you want a perfect example of this, think of Joseph in the Old Testament. How Joseph, he was in prison. He was a slave at one stage. He was a steward at one stage. He was a prisoner at one stage. And yet he excelled above every other prisoner to the point that it was noticeable. There's something different about this guy. And it led to great things happening. It led to personal promotions. It led to the whole will of God being seen in a foreign country. And Joseph stood out head and shoulders above everybody because he understood the whatever principle. Whatever you do, whether it's at work, whether it's in prison, whether it's as a slave, whether it's a prime minister, whatever you do, do it with all your heart. You see, God is an all-hearted person. He wants us to worship him with all of our hearts. Half-hearted worship makes him vomit, makes him very nauseous. You know, when he sees people living half-hearted lives, well, a little bit of this, a little bit of that, but my circumstances aren't very good. You know, people change your attitude, and to move more toward an attitude of gratitude, and watch what happens inside of you. People respond better to your boss will like you more. Your wife certainly is going to like you a whole bunch better. Your husband's going to think you're almost, your kids are going to think you're famous. Just change your attitude. Now, is it that simple? Well, it's probably not quite as simple as I'm making it, but it's a good starting point. And I hope that we will learn from this to say, whatever we do, let's do it with our whole heart. If you're playing sport, do it with your whole heart. If you're in the church, in the worship team, do it with your whole heart. If you're doing administrative stuff, if you're doing leadership stuff, do it with all your heart. Even if it's stuff that you don't ordinarily want to do or don't particularly like to do it with your whole heart. Because not because I said so, but because God says that's a criteria, or it's more a characteristic of what a real believer is all about. All-heartedness. Be a good friend, all-heartedly. Be a good husband and wife, all-heartedly. Love your kids, all-heartedly. And I think I've made my point. But I hope that this will speak to you about the circumstance that you're in maybe your own life. All-heartedness could turn that situation around if we just do it. It's a short message today, but I hope it will sink in, and I hope that you will think about it. Maybe it'll lead to something new. New attitude leads to new things. I hope that works for you. Have a great day, people. We'll see you soon. Bye-bye.